Okay, welcome everybody to today's class. Today we're looking at verbs and verb phrases. Last lesson we looked at nouns and noun phrases, and now we're going to move on to verbs because the two most important elements in any sentence will be a noun and a verb. And the reason why I say this is because to get a complete thought, in other words, a sentence, you need a subject and a verb. You need at least one verb and one doer. Now, there may be some sentences out there that are not, that disobey that rule. I can think of one. Imperatives. Imperatives, when you use an imperative, an order, you don't see a subject in the sentence. When you say wait here, there's no subject, but you do mean you wait here, of course. So that's one exception, but in most sentences, any sentences that aren't imperatives, you will always see a subject and a verb, which means you'll always see a noun and a verb, because remember that subjects must be nouns. And when we looked at nouns and noun phrases, we found out that even though we categorize words as nouns, sometimes they function differently. The typical function of a noun is to be subject of the verb, or object of the verb, or object of a preposition. But sometimes they don't function in those three ways, and we still call them a noun. We still very often categorize them as a noun. And we saw that sometimes a noun can function as an adverb. I think we did 25 centimeters high or tall, or something like that, or 3 years old. The 3 years was functioning as an adverb, describing an adjective, old. So nouns can function as adverbs, and nouns function as adjectives in compound nouns, like bus stop, alarm clock, cat food. You can see that the noun there, cat, is describing food, so it's functioning as an adjective in a compound noun, like alarm clock, bus stop, cat food. So you can see that nouns are, even though we categorize these words as nouns, sometimes they can function as other parts of speech do. Now, verbs are even more complicated. I think that they're the most interesting, the most attractive part of speech, the sexiest part of speech, if you like, because they can be used in such a variety of different ways. They function in such a large number of different ways, and they will be the most essential element of any sentence. Really, if you want to break the sentence up, and this is what this course is about, it's about the idea that you can break any sentence up into its components, then finding the subject and the verb is what you usually do first of all. It's the best thing to do first of all. Find that main clause, find the main piece of information that's at the top of the hierarchy, and then find the other parts which are describing that core. So really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to analyze the different functions of different words, and I really want you to think of this like chemistry, like the periodic table. When you separate out those elements, Mendeleev first discovered that it was weight, or he modeled this table on weight, how heavy each element was, and he realized that you could put them into different functional groups by separating out the weights of all the elements. We're doing the same with grammar. We're looking at the different weights, how important each word is, so that you can draw one of those sentence diagrams if you want to. Personally, I don't often do that in these classes, but I think really we're doing the same thing. We're looking for which words are at the top of the sentence, which words are the most important, and which other words describe them. So we're looking at weight, we're looking at significance, how important each word is in any sentence. So we're looking at verb phrases today. What's a verb phrase? Would be a good question to start with. So it's anything which has the verb as the most important word. Now, there is a little bit of confusion here, because I've noticed that with, for example, participle phrases or gerund phrases or verb phrases, in grammar books they very often call them non-finite verb clauses, or non-finite verbs, or non-finite clauses. All of these types of verb phrase, I'm going to call them verb phrase, okay? All these types of verb phrase, there we go. All these types of verb phrase are all considered non-finite clauses in grammar books, but I'm going to call them verb phrases I prefer the idea that a phrase doesn't have a subject and a verb and a clause does have a subject and a verb. So I'm going to call these verb phrases. They don't have a subject. Yeah, they just have a verb. And so let's call them verb phrases. Now, there are four basic kinds of verb phrase. You could have a to plus infinitive phrase. Now, anyone who's studied English grammar for a little bit of time will recognize these to plus infinitives. They're everywhere. Yeah, I want to have a cup of tea. To have is a to plus infinitive verb phrase. You can have the bare infinitive. Now, no to, yeah? You usually see this one after modal verbs. I can go, I would go, I should do, I should play, do, go. They're all the bare infinitive. Now, you also get gerund participle forms. Now, we could separate these two, but they look the same, yeah? This is the verb plus ing, this form, yeah? It's verb plus ing. So if you say, I like playing football, that's what we're talking about. Playing football is a verb phrase, okay? And technically, gerunds are different from participles. Gerunds are when you have the verb functioning as a noun, and participle is when you have the verb functioning as an adjective. So again, even though we categorize these words as verbs, they may function like other parts of speech. And it's the tricky thing about grammar, finding out the function. Okay, and then we have the past participle, which is usually, if it's regular, it's the verb plus ed. Yeah, like interested, bored, something like that. That would be the past participle. But the present participle would be interesting, boring. Yeah. So you have two different types of participles as well, present participles, past participles. And I'm going to annoy everybody now and say it's nowhere near this simple, because actually there are complex forms for all of these. So you can say to go, to be going, to have gone, to have been going. You can say go, gone, you know, have gone. There are lots of different forms of all four of these verb phrases. And if you want more information about those complex forms, type in complex participles or complex gerunds, Mr. Skype lessons, and you'll find more information. But this is just an overview. Okay, so they are four verb phrases that you will often see. And all I want to look at for today, sorry, I'll try and get that light off the board. All I want to look at for today are the to plus infinitive phrases. Okay, that's all we're going to look at, because the to plus infinitive verb phrase is incredibly flexible. It's used in so many different ways with so many different functions that it's a very difficult part of speech. So let's have a look at it. So here are 7 different ways that we can use a to plus infinitive in a sentence. We can use this to plus infinitive verb phrase in a sentence. And there were probably more. I actually took this from a grammar book, but they did have other examples, but these were the main ones in my opinion. And so I just wanted to go through what the verb phrase, how the verb phrase is functioning in each sentence, because we categorize a to plus infinitive as a verb phrase because to play, to go, to study, to want, to drink, to drive, whatever, they're all verbs and we categorize them as verbs. But look at number 1, to see them live in concert would be great. Yeah. Now, if we look at the verb phrase, to see them live in concert, that's functioning here as the subject of would be. That is what would be great. So to see them live in concert is the subject, which means that it's functioning as a noun. So we saw last class that nouns can function as adjectives, nouns can function as adverbs. Well, I'm going to confuse you even more and tell you that verb phrases can function as nouns. They can also function as adverbs and adjectives, and we'll see that in a moment. But here it's a noun, it's the subject, so it's a noun. Okay, have a look at number 2. I want to visit Japan. Well, what do you want? You want to visit Japan. So here, to visit Japan is the object of want. I've noticed that a lot of grammar books now call the object the internal complement of the verb. And if you prefer that expression, please use it. Personally, I like object, nice and clear. So to visit Japan is the object of the verb, and objects must be things. Only a thing can have a verb done to it. So here, to visit Japan is functioning as a noun simply because it's the object. Yeah. So if you say, I like to play chess on Sundays, that's the object of like. It's what you like to play chess. So the verb phrase is functioning as a thing. It's functioning as a noun. Okay, look at the next one. I went to the shops to buy some milk. Now here, to buy some milk is called an adjunct. What's an adjunct? An adjunct is something very often called an adverb as well. Usually adjuncts are adverbial, but it's something you just add on the end of the sentence that doesn't need to be there. The sentence makes sense without it. So it's fine to say I went to the shops, right? And to buy some milk just gives you the reason why you went to the shop. And anything telling you the reason why the verb happened is an adverb. So this to buy some milk is an adverbial adjunct. All they mean by that is, all the grammarians mean, is that this to plus infinitive phrase describes the verb went. And anything telling you the where, the when, the how, the why of the verb is probably an adverb. It's some adverbial component. Okay, so here we're using to plus infinitive as an adverb, as an adverbial adjunct, and it's very common in that position because very often we use to plus infinitive verb phrases to explain why the verb happened. Yeah, so something like, I don't know, I revised all night to get a better mark. Yeah, to get a better mark tells you why you revised. Or I brought a jumper not to get cold. Yeah, and not to get cold tells you why you brought a jumper. Okay, so I hope that's all clear. Now, next one, number 4. We can use to plus infinitive as a complement of a noun. Now, what does complement mean? We're getting a few new grammatical terms here. Adjunct means something which is put on the end of a sentence that doesn't need to be there, but it adds more information to the sentence. A complement is something which is licensed by another word. Now, this is a very open definition of a complement. What I mean is, for example, the verb to put. You don't just say, I put the pen, full stop. You need something else to make that make sense, to make the verb put make sense. And so you need to say, I put the pen on the table. And on the table is considered a complement. It's absolutely vital. It needs to be there, otherwise the sentence doesn't make any sense. And here we received the order. It's vague. We need this complement to advance in order to have the sentence make real sense or to keep the meaning. And so this complement to advance is describing the noun order. Yeah, what kind of order? An order to advance. And so it's the complement of a noun, and so it's an adjective. It's describing the noun. But this word, the order, it's a word which is a noun which often needs a complement. It often needs you need to know the kind of order. Yeah, the order to advance or the order to start or this kind of thing. So the noun, it's the complement of a noun here, and it describes the noun. And quite often you could have a noun and then a to plus infinitive expression to describe the noun. I don't know, something like the idea to, or the opportunity to win. Yeah, then you're describing the opportunity. It's an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? An opportunity to win, or something like that, where you're describing that noun with the to plus infinitive. Now, it's not just nouns that we can describe with to plus infinitive. We can even describe adjectives. Here, we say we were sad. Why were you sad? Yeah, we were sad to see him go, or to see them go. So to see them go is describing sad. Sad in what way? Sad to see them go. So it's the complement here of an adjective. So here it's an adverb. It's describing an adjective. So this is something else that we can do with to plus infinitive expressions. So we can see it can, like, these verb phrases sometimes function as nouns, sometimes as adverbs, sometimes as adjectives, sometimes as adverbs. Here it was describing a verb. Here it's describing an adjective. Now, number 6 and number 7 I haven't spoken about much before, but you can find more information about this kind of thing in the video that I have called Cleft Sentences, because really that's connected to this, to number 6 and number 7. So have a look at number 6. It would be great. What would be great? To see them live in concert. So here, to see them live in concert is standing in for the dummy pronoun it. Yeah, it is what we call a dummy pronoun because it doesn't refer to anything that's already been mentioned, but it actually refers to something which is further down the sentence, and that's why we call this the extraposed subject. Extraposed means you use an it, you use a dummy pronoun, and then you stick the subject somewhere at the end of the sentence, okay? So it would be great to see them live in concert. This is the extraposed subject, and because it's the subject, it's a noun. Yeah, to see them live in concert is actually, it's being represented by this pronoun it. What would be great? To see them live in concert would be great. And we can even do that with the object, although this is rarer. The extraposed object is when you say something like, I considered it necessary or unnecessary. What did you consider unnecessary? To prepare for the exam was unnecessary. So here it's the object and not the subject that's extraposed. So that's called the extraposed object. But you can see there are many different ways you can use a to plus infinitive phrase, and you can see that they function each time in different ways. And this is what I want you to always bear in mind whenever you're looking at a sentence and trying to work out the function of different parts of the sentence. Please remember that just because we categorize a word as a noun, it doesn't mean it's functioning as a noun. And just because we categorize a word as a verb, it doesn't mean it's functioning as a verb. Verb phrases can function as nouns, adjectives, adverbs. It really depends what they are doing in the sentence. Now, 4 other forms that I thought we'd very quickly look at is whether, how, what, and maybe where or who plus to plus infinitive, because you do see these a lot. So you can get these verb phrases that start with a whether, a how or what and then have a to plus infinitive as the object. I didn't know whether to stay or whether to go. You could have them as the complement of an adjective. I'm not sure how to proceed. So how to proceed describes in what way you're not sure. Now this one, I've got to be honest and say, I feel like this one used to always have a preposition there. I am not sure of how to proceed. And over time, I feel like we've dropped that preposition, and that's why we can have it as the complement of an adjective. But number 3 shows us again, we argued about what? How to proceed. So here it's the object of a preposition. It's more like a noun. It's the object of a preposition. Here it's more like an adverb because it's describing the adjective sure. Okay, and last one, the decision on, that would be our object of a preposition again. I feel like we drop prepositions over time, and that's why we get sentences like this. The decision whether he is guilty rests with the jury. You don't have to say the on nowadays. You can drop it. And then the whether he is guilty describes a noun, so it's an adjective there. Yeah, these can act adjectively, the complement of a noun. Okay, so that's one more way that we can use these to plus infinitives. And one more thing, of course, we do have a lot of verbs that can be strung together in long chains. These are called catenative verbs. And you really can do this for as long as you want. I made this sentence earlier, but I really nicked the idea of it from the Student's Introduction to English Grammar by Jeffrey Huddleston or Pullum. Forgotten their names, but it's a great book, fantastic book, very almost finished it now, and it helped me come up with some of these verb phrases as well. So maybe I'll put the name of that book down here, but it's a classic for grammar. So have a look at this sentence. He seems to be trying to avoid having to go to see the doctor. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 verb phrases in a row. So be aware that you very often see verb phrases in a very long row. But it's not the main lesson, the main idea to take away from this lesson. The main idea is about function and category. They are different. We categorize words in one way, and then when we look at them, how they work in different sentences, we often see them functioning in different ways, and this is what's important to us as grammarians. Now, I'm writing a book at the moment about all of this, where I'm trying to put all of this information together, and my aim is to write a book that will tell you and show you, make it very easy to take any sentence at all and split it up into its functional parts. And I want to show how that's really useful if you enjoy writing, or if you enjoy language, or if you enjoy linguistics. There's nothing more useful that you could do. So please watch this space. Hopefully in a few months I'll have that book ready, and I'll continue making these kind of classes because they help me write the book. Actually, they do help me get my thoughts in order, and they help me understand, yeah, the structure of the book, where I'm going to start, where I'm going to go. And the book does start with nouns and then verbs, and so I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. Please like, subscribe, all the rest of it, and I